Hey there, lovely. If you're a driven and highly ambitious woman who has checked all the boxes, followed all the rules, only to realize you don't actually feel fulfilled or you don't feel like you're living your purpose, then you are absolutely in the right place. My name is Melissa Chavis. I'm an intuitive mindset coach, and I am absolutely obsessed with helping you discover your true purpose, that thing you were put here on this earth to do, so that you can live the most fulfilling and abundant life possible. Hey there. Welcome back for a brand new episode of the Authentic Awakening podcast. Today, I want to talk about a topic that seems to come up a lot in my conversations with clients, potential clients, and even in some of the research conversations that I've had. And it is the topic of trust. So, as you know, it feels like millions of coaches out there in this space today. And so one of the biggest concerns I hear from people is whether or not they can actually trust a coach to, well, number one, be honest, right? Or to really be here to be helpful versus like, are they just in it to make some money? And then also, are they actually able to deliver on the promise that they're offering? Like, if you work with this coach, are they going to help you get the results that they're saying that they're going to help you get? So this topic comes up all the time. I hear it over and over again. And so I think that it's really important to address it and talk about what to do in this situation. And of course, being a coach in this space, I feel it, right? I feel it on the other side. I can feel that people are concerned at this point about getting taken advantage of, and they're concerned about spending what, typically feels like a lot of money to get support from someone, and they're worried that they're not going to get the result that they're paying for, essentially. And so I get it. Not only can I feel it on the coach end of it, but also being in this space, there are a lot of business coaches out there, right, who are constantly trying to pitch me and offer me different services. And so I see it from the other side as well. It's something that I've had to deal with myself throughout this process of becoming a coach, starting a business, and running a business over the last year plus that I've been doing it. So ultimately, how do we decide who we can actually trust when we are looking for someone to help us get a result that we're after? Because ultimately, that's what a coach does. You're struggling in some space, or there is a specific result that you really want to get, and you are looking for a coach to help you do it because you understand that other people have been through this, other people have different expertise in different areas, and this isn't something you've been able to accomplish, and so you want to get help accomplishing it, right? So how do we decide who we can trust? First of all, I think that there are a few things that we can kind of think about to begin with, sort of some maybe red flags or just certain things to really kind of look out for on this surface level when you get started on this journey of looking to work with a coach. So number one is, does their offer actually seem doable? Is it reasonable to expect that one could get this result in this period of time that this coach is promising to deliver? So for me, I see a lot of coaches out there saying, I can get you to $10,000 months in your first 90 days. Okay, well, it's potentially possible there might be some people who are able to do that. It's not super realistic. Most coaches starting out are not going to get to $10,000 months in 90 days. Starting a business and learning how to successfully run a business takes more than 90 days. It just does. And so, of course, I know this now because I've been in this space for a while, but in the beginning, when I saw those kinds of claims, it was like, huh, is that possible? Maybe that is possible. I don't really know what's possible in this space. I've never done this before. So it is a little bit more difficult to discern at that point. But I think if you really take a look at it and you kind of think through it a little bit and evaluate whether or not that's something that really is possible for most people, I think you can probably see like, yeah, that's probably not really realistic. And so if someone is promising some amazing claim and it's in like, 30, 60 days, probably not, it's not realistic. You're probably not going to make the necessary changes to totally change the trajectory of your life and be completely successful in whatever this new endeavor is in the next 30 days. Like, that's not going to happen for most people. And then the second thing is when you're reading their posts, when you're watching their videos, how does it make you feel? Are you excited about it? Does it make you feel hopeful? Does it make you feel inspired? Or is it just kind of, ugh, I don't know. Like, I don't know what it is, but this person is just saying all this stuff, but it just doesn't really seem like they even believe it themselves. And so, just looking at their content, seeing what they're saying, and kind of making sure that you're doing some of that legwork of looking into this person first. I would say do your research. Is their content, helpful? Is what you're looking at and reading and watching from them, does it seem like they actually have the intention of helping you in some way? Or is it all just claims like, oh, I've made all this money, I live this amazing lifestyle? I mean, if they're just talking about themselves and they're just saying, like, oh, here's everything I've done, here's all the stuff I'm capable of doing, to me, that's not super helpful. So I think that looking at what you're seeing out there, looking at their content, and seeing, does this seem like they're in it for the right reasons? Do they seem authentic? Do they really seem to be here to help people? And then number three, I think, is taking some time to maybe try to interact with them and see how they communicate with you. Send them a message or send them an email, communicate with them in some way, and then just see what kind of a response you get back from them. I think a lot of times, if someone isn't really trying to be helpful, isn't here for the right reasons, you're going to be able to quickly see in the communication if they are not even willing to have a conversation with you or talk to you about anything, and all they say is like, here's how you can buy my services, here's how you can pay me. I think that's kind of a red flag. If you're working with someone, if you're in a coaching relationship with somebody, you need to be able to trust that they're going to communicate back and forth with you, that the communication is going to be effective, that they're responsive. I mean, if you send a message to somebody, you reach out to a coach that you're thinking about working with, and they don't even respond at all, I think that's obviously a huge red flag and not something that's just going to go away if you're actually working with them. And if they're really just in it for the money, they're not going to care necessarily about how they treat you, even inside of their programs. And so that's kind of like that first level of what you really need to look out for. But let's say you've done that and it's like, okay, this person seems trustworthy. I think that the promise seems reasonable. This outcome seems like something that is possible for people. Then I think there's something that is a deeper issue that is happening for so many of the people that I talk to. Because ultimately, when I have the conversations and when I hear this concern, a lot of times I think what's really going on is something a little bit deeper. And I think that that is the ability to trust yourself and this ability to have the discernment to know ultimately what is right for you and what is the right direction for you. And I think a lot of times when I hear this concern and I just don't know who to trust. I don't know if I can trust this person. I don't know if I can trust that, this is going to work. I don't want to get taken advantage of, all of those things. While I do think that there is some level to that, I think that what is most of the time underneath that is this inability to really trust yourself and this fear that your intuition about it, that your feelings about it may not be accurate. And unfortunately, I think that this is really a very widespread issue. I think a lot of us don't trust ourselves. We don't trust ourselves to make the right decisions. We don't trust ourselves to really internally know what is best for us. I think it's because we've really been taught that we don't always know best. We've been taught that there are others who know better about what is best for us. We've been taught that we need to seek out guidance about making the right decision or doing the right thing, and that our intuition isn't necessarily to be trusted. And so when you have lived like that for so many years of your life, when you have built up that sort of distrust of yourself, of your own knowing, then it becomes very difficult to make decisions when you don't have someone else telling you what to do. And when you're in the process of trying to find a coach or a mentor or someone to work with to help you through a challenge that you're working on, there's no one there to tell you the right decision to make. There's no one there to say, here's who you really should work with, and here's who's going to help you get the results that you're after. And so I think ultimately what's happening is I don't know if I can trust myself to make this decision and to make the right one. So then we kind of get in this place where we feel very overwhelmed and confused by this decision because we don't have someone who we already trust to tell us, here's the right decision for you and here's the direction you need to go. So then, because we feel like we need to give that trust to somebody else, we end up sort of trying to put it on that coach or that other individual who we're thinking about working with. And we want to be able to trust that they can help us basically based on what they think. And then we're like, well, that doesn't quite feel right because that isn't really how this works. The trust needs to be, am I making the right decision for myself? Is this who I really feel like I should be working with? Is this the right direction for me? And because you're trying to kind of offload some of that responsibility, offload that decision making, then it's like you're having to try to put all this trust in the other person. But ultimately, it comes down to trusting yourself and being able to discern whether or not this is the right decision for you to work with this individual. And that's a challenge. That's something that we haven't had to rely on all that much in our lives. We've relied on sort of other people to tell us how to make the right decision or what the right decision is or what the next steps are here. But this is a situation where we have to make that decision completely on our own, and no one else can make it for us, and no one else can tell us if it's the right decision, and no coach out there can tell you whether they are the right coach for you because they don't know, they don't have that information. You're the only one who has the information, and so that decision always has to come back to you. And trust me, if you're feeling called out here, if you're feeling like defensive at all in this situation, know that I only know this because I've been there. I've been through this in this entire process for myself over the last 5 years, my journey of figuring out my life direction, what I really wanted to do, right? I hired coaches. I purchased coaching programs. And one coaching program in particular that I purchased was very, very expensive. I invested a lot of money in this coach and working with her. And while there was a lot of value there was a lot of value to be had. I made the decision to work with her because I thought she knew what was best for me. I put my trust in her to make that decision. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I realized she wasn't the right coach for me. Once I was able to trust myself a little bit more and have that discernment, I realized that wasn't the right decision for me. And I completely own that. I know that it had nothing to do with her or the promises that she was making or whatever it might be, but it just wasn't the right move for me at that time. And I know that I made that decision because I was giving that decision-making power away to someone else, and they were telling me what was best for me. And ultimately, it wasn't. And I know that now, but it made me realize that that decision is on me. And ultimately, in order to move my life in whatever direction I wanted to go, I needed to be able to trust myself. I needed to be able to have that discernment in that decision making and know internally what was the right next move for me. And I think on top of all of this, on top of that level of trust, putting our trust in someone else, making the decisions based on what we think other people think about it, while that's overwhelming enough, what I find in these conversations, and when we dig a little bit deeper, there's also this worry that we can't trust ourselves to actually do what it will take to get that result. We don't trust that we're going to show up for ourselves to get the result that we're really after. Because let's be honest, ultimately at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what coach you hire. It could be the best, most amazing, most authentic, genuine, successful coach in the world. And if you don't show up for yourself, if you don't take the actions necessary to make the changes that are necessary to make that transformation, you're not going to get results. There is no one out there who can just hand you results on a silver platter. They just can't. It doesn't work that way. You still have to follow the plan. You still have to follow the process and take the actions that are necessary along the way to get to that end result that you're after. And when you haven't done it before, it's really hard to trust that you will do it, to trust that you have it in you to make the necessary changes and take the necessary actions to actually get that end result. So I think that there are multiple layers to this. And I think at the end of the day, it really is all about self-trust and really being able to tune in to how you're feeling about the decision. So I think the message here is if you are feeling this way, if you're in this space and you're feeling confused about who to trust, you just don't know, you don't want to get taken advantage of, and you're just not sure who to work with, I think, of course, go back to the kind of red flag things that I mentioned in the beginning, do that initial check. Like, I don't know, do they actually like seem legit? What's out there? Communicate with them, see how they're communicating. But beyond that, anything beyond that is internal. You really need to take a step back and look within yourself and say, how do I feel about this? Does this feel like the right decision for me? Check in with your intuition because you do have intuition and you are able to make good decisions for yourself. It just might take some time to work through some things internally and to really get that gut check there to see if the decision that you're making feels like the right one for you. All right. So ultimately, at the end of the day, it's about trusting yourself and trusting that gut feeling that you're getting and trusting that you are capable of making the right decisions for yourself. You're capable of making good decisions. You are. And you do know what's best for you. You just have to really look inward and allow yourself to see those decisions. to see that intuition, to get those feelings. Just allow yourself to go there and to feel that and to make those decisions based on what you really feel is best for you. That's it for another episode of the Authentic Awakening podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you found it helpful, I'd love to hear from you. You can do that by liking and subscribing to my YouTube channel or rating and reviewing the podcast wherever you're listening.